Our I can statement for today is E5. I can solve two-step equations. Now this is going to be the same topic that we'll cover for several of these lessons, but today we're going to focus on simplifying equivalent expressions. So I want to go back to the difference between simplifying and solving. Okay, so simplifying is when we find an equivalent expression with the least number of terms. So we might have a great big long expression, and we add up all of the x's, we add up all of the constants, so we have just two terms. That's what it means to simplify, the least number of terms. Solving is when we use our process, our order of operations, to isolate the variable, meaning get x all by itself on one side so that we can figure out what x actually equals. In other words, we're finding the value for our variable that makes the equation true. So let's take a look at what these might look like. Okay, so if I simplify an expression or an equation, it might look something like this. 2x plus 3 equals 4. And it's the least number of terms because there aren't x's I can combine, there aren't numbers I can combine. This is as far as I can go on both sides, simplifying the expression. Solving the expression is where we would subtract 3 from both sides, we would divide both sides by 2, that kind of a thing, and we would get an answer, x equals stuff. Okay, in this case, x would equal 1/2. Okay, so this is the difference between simplifying and solving. Now, today we're just going to focus on the simplifying part. Simplifying is always going to be our first step when we're solving an equation. Once it's simplified, then we'll solve, and that's what we'll cover in the next series of lessons. Now, before we jump into simplifying equations, remember that's when we have one expression that's equal to another expression, we're going to focus on remembering how to simplify just one expression at a time. So I'm going to put boxes around all of my x's. That was like writing them on the pink sticky notes. And I'm going to list them here, negative x and 7x. And I'm going to add those together. Now remember, negative x is the same as negative 1x. So negative 1 plus 7 is going to be 6x. Next, I'm going to put circles around all my constants. So I have 8 and I have positive 1. So I'm going to write 8 and 1. I'm going to add those together and I'm going to get 9. So something that's important to remember, the sign goes in front of the term, okay? So this subtract became a negative that went with the x, okay? And I included the positives with the other values. Now, my final answer is when I take all of the x's and all of the constants and I write them as one expression added together, 6x plus 9. That is my final answer, my simplified expression. Now, this expression requires us to use the distributive property before we combine like terms. So first, I'm going to take the negative 3. Remember, the sign in front goes with that term. Negative 3 multiplied by positive 2. Negative 3 times positive 2 is 6. Then I'm going to take the negative 3 and multiply it by the negative x. Okay, remember, that has to stay negative. That's the term, or the sign in front of the term. Negative 3 times negative 1x is going to give me positive 3x. So I'm going to write plus 3x. And then I also want to make sure I include that plus 4 at the end. Now, I can combine like terms. I only have one x term, so I'm just going to write that as part of my final answer. Then I'm going to find my constants. I have 6 plus 4, and that's going to give me 10. So my final answer is 3x plus 10. If this is not sounding familiar, go back to our E1 videos and watch that. That will go through step by step the simplifying expression process. So, simplifying equations. When we have equations with many terms on one or both sides, before we solve, we must simplify. So today, we're only going to be focusing on this first step, the simplifying. Do not solve these problems today. Just simplify. All right, so let's simplify each side of the equation. Now, I notice that my right-hand side only has one term. It's already simplified. So we're just going to focus on this side of the equation. I am going to get all of my x's, including the signs in front, and I'm going to add them together. So 3x and minus 2x added together is going to give me 1x. And remember, I can write that either this way or just as a simple x. Okay, this is just the x by itself is the most correct way, but if you wrote 1x in front of it, I wouldn't mark it wrong. Then I'm going to take all of my constants. So I have 1 and 4, and I'm going to add those together. 1 plus 4 is 5. And then I'm going to write x plus 5. So x plus 5 is the most simplified version of this expression, this side of the equation. And I'm going to say that it is still equal to 3x because I didn't add or subtract anything new. I just combined the numbers that was already there. Okay? Instead of saying I have 1 and I have 4, I just put all of my stuff together. I now have 5 items. Okay? So this is our final answer for today. Starting with the next video, we're going to go through solving those equations. Okay? Now this one requires us to simplify both sides of the equation. Okay? So I'm going to start with the left-hand side. I'm going to find all of my x's. So I have negative 2x plus 5x. I'm going to add those together. Negative 2 plus 5 is going to be positive 3x. Then I'm going to grab my constants. So I have 1 and I have positive 4. 1 plus 4 gives me 5. So I have 3x plus 5. And that's what I have on this, the left-hand side of the equation, 3x plus 5. Now, I'm going to step over and look at the right-hand side of the equation. Now, I don't have any x's, so I don't need to worry about that. I'm just going to combine these constant terms. So 1 plus negative 2 plus 1. So I have 1, negative 2, and 1. I'm going to add those together. And I am going to actually get 0 for this side. 0 is totally fine to get for one of your sides. Happens all the time. Now, my two sides of the equation are kind of off-centered, so just to make it nice and neat and easy for others to look at, I'm going to write 3x plus 5 equals 0 all on one line. So this is our final answer for today. Starting with tomorrow's lessons, we'll learn how to solve this type of equation. Now, this one is going to require us to use the distributive property, so that's going to be my first step, and then I'll combine like terms on both sides. So I'm going to do 3 times x. They're both positive, so I'm going to end up with a positive 3x. Then I'm going to do 3 times negative 1, which is going to give me negative 3. And then I have plus 2. And I'm going to say that that's all equal to 4x plus x. Because I didn't add or subtract any new numbers, I just used the numbers that were already there. Now I can combine like terms on both sides. I want you to pause the video and try this on your own, and then start it back up again to check your answers. All right, let's go ahead and check our answers. So I would find all of my x's, which on this side is just 3x. So I'm just going to write it down here. Then I'm going to find all of my constants. Now you may be thinking, well, what's the sign, plus or minus? And remember, adding a negative is the same as subtracting a positive. Either way, we'll stay with a negative sign, okay? So I'm going to write -3 and +2. And I'm going to end up with, so -3 plus 2 is going to give me -1. So on this side, I'm going to have 3x plus -1. All right, let's take a look at the other side. I have 4x and positive x. So 4x plus 1x is going to give me 5x's total. So I will have 5x. So my equation in simplified form would be 3x plus -1 equals 5x. Now remember, this isn't our final answer, but it's where we're going to leave it for today. And then we will pick up from where we left off today with solving these types of problems in the next lessons. All right, I want you to try this one on your own. Notice that both sides will require you to use the distributive property first. So first distribute, then combine like terms. Start the video up when you're ready to check your answer. All right, if you need more time, remember, pause the video before you check the answer. Here is how I found my solution. First, I'm going to distribute the -2 in front to the x. So -2 times x is -2x. Next, I'm going to distribute the -2 to the -2 inside the parentheses. Note, this is a negative because of the subtract sign in front. -2 times -2 is going to be +4. So I'm going to do +4, and then I'm going to bring down that +5. Then I'm going to distribute on the other side, okay? So 4 times x is 4x. 4 times -2 is going to be -8. So I'm going to write plus -8. So that's my step 1. My next step is to combine like terms. Now, on the left-hand side, I just have one term with x, so that's going to be part of my final answer, -2x. Then I'm going to combine my constants, so I have +4 and +5. So I'm going to add those together. 4 plus 5 totals to be 9. So on this side, my simplified expression is -2x plus 9. On the other side, I don't have multiple x's or multiple constants. This is already in simplest form. So I'm just going to rewrite that as part of my final answer. So remember, we're going to pick up from these types of problems, solving them. But for today, just focus on getting them to this step, simplified. Remember, you can watch the video as many times as you need to and pause each time to make sure that you're understanding the concept. Thanks for watching.